quorum present with 2 members in person. Mr. Bromas is going to be on the phone here in a moment. If he's on the phone, we'll do the pledge of allegiance.
Elmer? All right, we're here, hold on. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, so we should be streaming.
Yes, we can.
We should be streaming in addition to you on the phone, so we're going to get the meeting started. Okay, we'll begin with the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Schneider to confirm, Mr. Bromas can participate, but he's not allowed to vote. Is that what
That
the
is correct.
situation is?
That is correct.
Okay. So,
That's what I assumed.
okay. Here we go. We will get started with the minutes from the October 17th meeting. I'll move that we approve them as written.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We have the payroll from the previous period. Any concerns there? I'll move that we approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We have the claims against the county, the voucher expense report. I'll move that we approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. First item on the agenda is the highway department. Mr. Berg. Thank you.
Elmer, did you get my email this morning? I think I sent you a copy.
I did, Steve.
Okay, good. Okay, first item up, the sanitation sites will be closed on Veterans Day, Friday, November 11th, in order to observe that holiday. The next one, sanitation site holiday hours for 2022. Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve both occur on Saturday this year, where all sites would be normally open during these days. I'd like to recommend that we implement holiday hours for all of the sites, where they would begin at 8 a.m. and close at noon on Saturday, December the 24th, and again on Saturday, December 31st. Okay.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. What I'd also like to ask is that adding an extra man to the Jasper, Ireland, and Huntingburg sites, since they're going to be so busy on that following Monday, Monday, December the 26th, and Monday, January the 2nd, in order to help assist with the additional traffic that closure is likely to create. So it'd be just those 3 sites. We would have an extra person just helping with traffic and helping get the merchandise, the stuff where it needs to go.
I'll move to approve both the request for holiday hours on December 24th and December 31st, in addition to the additional help for the additional traffic on this 26th and 2nd.
I'll second.
Any other discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Another sanitation thing. We have an opening in our floater pool. Had Marky with us last week as we had interviewed 2 people that were really good candidates. And what I would like to recommend is that we would hire both. This would give us an extra person in our pool to
No,
call.
okay, thanks.
It's not an additional person that's gonna be on payroll, it's just another name to choose from when we have an opening at one of our sites.
I'm good with keeping appropriate candidates in the work pool, but do we need, is that position created? Saying how would you look at that? Is it one position with two people working it, or does that mean it's two positions?
It'd be
Right,
the
I mean,
same,
you're not gonna have both floaters working at the
same
same
budget
time.
wise, correct?
Same budget wise, yeah. It's just another name to call if we have an opening.
I would think it would be no different than what we have part-time out of community corrections. They have one part-time, one out of multiple people that they can call.
I just wanted to verify that we weren't gonna have you in any trouble when you try to pay the people.
You can't pay more than salary ordinance and
No.
more than the line appropriation, so once it's done, it's done.
Yeah, and it doesn't change anything. We're not adding an extra person to the regular side hours or anything like that outside of what we're doing, just special on the holiday here. But this just gives us another name to pull from, because it has at times gotten tight.
You have any comments?
No, I think it's a good idea. If you can get people to get them.
Commissioner Brahmas, comments?
No, I'm good with that.
Okay,
Yeah, no, I'm good with it.
Okay.
consensus to move forward.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. And I believe Greg had been working on a purchase agreement for that dumpster site there in Du Bois. Greg, you have some?
I sure do. I was working on that after the last meeting, and then I've spoken to the family's appointed a point person, spoke with her last week. There were a set of revisions, but the final draft has been sent around. Those sellers are located in various states. So ideally it gets back and we can put it here with their signatures at our next meeting on the 21st for the board to approve, sign off on, and then we'll circulate deeds around.
So we're gonna need seller signatures at this time through different channels, and
Correct.
when it comes back, we can sign it.
Correct, and I'll set the deed up in a way to hopefully streamline it by pages.
How many members are there? 5?
There are 5, yes. 1 lives in Indiana. And not nearby.
At this point, though, we haven't heard that any of the 5 are
No,
opposed.
it seemed like they all had a consensus as well, but this was their next step. So before I did any of the deed or title work, I at least get their signatures, they inked on the paper, and before I presented it to you for your signatures.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I think it's a win for everybody involved, so. Thanks, Greg.
Mhm.
Next item up, annual bid information. We've set a time up for 10 a.m. at our next meeting, November 21st, to accept and open material bids. At that point, they're gonna be taken under advisement, and we will approve them the first meeting in December. Transfer, actually, this is for additional appropriations. It's not a transfer. I think on the sheet behind you there, oh, it is a transfer, I'm sorry. Transfer of appropriations, the high cost of fuel has caught up to us in order to close out the rest of the year. What I'd like to do is transfer money from our highway restricted from paving projects, the 40,000, and transfer it into gas, oil, and diesel to carry that through the rest of the year.
Is the restricted highway fund, so that just has money that rolls over year to year that you don't use it this year, you have it for next year? It can only
And
be-
it down every day. I mean, we make it 0 at the end of the year.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's actually considered MVH fund, but you have to split them 50-50. And usually you spend more than 50%, so we move more highway over there and make it 0.
And these are within the same,
They're the same fund, they just have to be kept separate, so you know you did your 50%.
okay, so you get our consent first, and then the council has to do the actual transfer, correct?
Yes.
I move that we approve or support the transfer for gas, oil, and diesel.
Second.
Commissioner Brahmas, do you have any comments?
No, I approve it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
That's all I've got.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So later today, Mr. Berg, I think Community Corrections is going to come in and they have a Ford van and a Dodge Journey, I believe. If things go the way I think they will, we'll approve the sale of those due to the price. One being, we're assuming in the $1,500 range, and the other one over $10,000. The van, it has 17,000 miles on it, so it's desirable. I'm going to submit to the board that we do sealed bids for both of those. And since the two of you have worked on that, would you work with Wyatt to make that happen for advertising and bid opening and those things?
Yeah.
So that's what I was gonna ask you to do that later, so I thought I'd just do that now. So, okay. Ms. Wendell?
Meaning to talk to her about the more transposed.
Oh, stick. That way that's not any good, right? So this is what, or did we transpose it?
That's in our budget. That's what we approved in the budget. That we transposed it, I can have her look.
Mr. Chair, can I ask you to do us a secretarial duty?
I'll be glad to.
Thank you. The.
Will I miss any of Brent's presentation?
All important stuff, isn't it? So I think this is what was budgeted, that's what they put into it, you might call it out there and see if you're available to see what figure is correct. I appreciate it.
Chelsea.
Chelsea. Sir.
Okay, okay, Cusco Road South, they finished installing the liner on Friday. They're scheduled to install some of the grouts today, and then it'll be a little bit every day this week, because you can only put so much grout in at a time, and it's got to set up. If you just keep pumping, the grout, the liner's gonna move and sway, and you won't get a true flow line. So it'll take time, but they are moving forward.
Satisfied so far?
So far,
Looks like it's what it's supposed to be.
so, Bridge 14, they closed the road last Thursday, sorry. They demoed it, they started demoing it Friday. They're hoping to have the whole thing out by the day today. So it's moving along, and hopefully we can get here before the rain brings the river up. Nothing really too much to go on there. Okay, paving projects. So I have a change order for Jasper DuBois and Stein Bottom Road. The projects were complete. They did their patches, and this is the change order as follows. So for Jasper DuBois Road is a net increase of $334.03. Stein Bottom Road was a net increase of $4,155.56. We have reviewed everything, and I do recommend approval and signing of the change orders. They're approved and signed, and we'll process the claims. There's two signatures on each one.
So on this one, the Jasper DuBois, there was a net increase for one section, a net decrease in another, and the net total was of the.
Correct.
Commissioner Ramos, any comments?
No, I don't. I'm sure Brent has verified all the numbers, and it's his recommendation that we approve it, then I approve.
I'll move that we approve and sign the change order as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Okay.
Next.
The next thing is bridge inspection. Received an invoice from American Structure Point in the amount of $2,198.63. I have reviewed this invoice. It is complete and fair, so I do recommend that approval.
Comments, concerns? I'll move that we approve the phase 1 invoice payment. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the last thing is we've got our latest and greatest road prioritization books. Just has every road section we have in here with their latest surface type, the rating based on the Pacer. I'm going to keep one in that drawer over there, and then I have another copy if somebody else wants one. If they don't, or if more than you, I can make another one. It takes me just about 20 minutes to make one, so it's not a big deal.
As long as one's available, I can read the one that's in the drawer.
Okay.
Commissioner Bromas, how about, we'll leave one out for you for this time being, and if you need it back.
Yeah, no, both these are for them. Like I said, one's going in here, and if somebody wants this one, then that's perfectly fine. That's why I brought one, but I didn't know, I wasn't gonna make a whole bunch of it, nobody else wanted them, so.
If, and I guess if the commissioners look at it and we don't agree, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
Is that a,
It's
I don't know
all,
if we've ever really had.
it's all data. There's nothing to agree or not agree. It's hard stuff. It is what it is, and this is the rating that it is. There's no subjective stuff. It's just information in the book. So agreeing or not agreeing, I don't know what you couldn't agree on, if that makes sense. It's
Just giving information.
yeah, it's all strict data.
Well, I guess what I could say is I know some other county commissioners in other counties would say, I don't care what the numbers say, I want that road.
and that's fine, and that's what.
That's kind of what I guess I was getting
Yeah,
at.
this is all data that gives you guys what everything is. Ultimately, the paving and stuff like that's a different story. What we do every year, if you guys decide you want to do
Okay.
wire road or French road.
This is what the facts, you've seen them, and then we'll.
Yeah.
I got it. Thank you.
So, all right, and that's all I got. Unless you guys got something for me.
I have nothing else. Thank you. I'll do a little miscellaneous so we don't run late later. Our next item's up at 8:30, so we will start that promptly at 8:30. Something I know we've talked about in here before, that I was collecting some of the old cell phones and some of the old computers. I do have a UPS, a FedEx label here. I'm gonna be mailing in those cell phones and tablets to a company to try to get some funds for the county that way. Just wanted to give you an update there. Also, did either of you receive a letter from LifeSpring Health Systems about the opioid funds that are coming in?
I did.
You did?
Yes.
You know,
I haven't seen it yet.
so I just wanted to, I don't know if there's any discussion to be had about that at this time, or if we just
When's it coming?
hold it in reserve until the funds actually arrive. And do you have anything to,
That would be my suggestion, yes.
in short, they're saying that there's a community health center and they have 7 bullet points of different ways they recommend that their services that could be provided to use those funds to help with the opioid problems.
I think there are going to be numerous places we can spend that opioid money. And although LifeSpring may be a valid place, I think we need to have more discussion on it.
I agree. So at this point now, this is our second request for these funds, the first one being Safe Haven. That came and presented to us a couple weeks ago. So I think we'll probably have more requests than we have money, but at least we have some funds to help. Next, I received a letter from Adelaide Tillison, a Morrison Elementary School child. It looks like they sent this out, unfortunately, like in October, and I just got it this weekend. And they were asking for some information about Du Bois County and if I could send them some things. So Saturday, I wrote up a card and sent some information, and I printed some stuff off the internet and sent our contact information. I think it says that this child is doing a presentation this week, so I'm hoping at least they'll get our piece of mail. The kid did a good job of sending it over the middle of last month, but I didn't get it, so I didn't have to do a good job of getting it back. So hopefully we were able to help them, and they're talking about Du Bois County in Morristown. So that was interesting. That's the first time that's happened. Commissioner Bromas, we have a couple things here for wastewater, USDA things that they're not directly anything that we would take action on, but maybe we'll put those on his pile if he wants to look at those when he comes in.
Okay.
We're gonna be talking about the regional sewer district at 9 o'clock. I've received a little bit of feedback on that. Have either of you got anything in postal mail or email on that?
I haven't seen anything from it.
I don't know if
I've not gotten anything or received anything from any citizens or interested parties, only from Clark East and beyond that, no.
so in that case, I would assume that probably my name and phone number and email are probably on the letter.
Your name is on the letter.
Yeah, so that's probably why they contacted me. So whenever that time comes, I'll share what was the feedback that was received. Because some of them said that they wouldn't be able to be at the public hearing. And just for my benefit, a reminder, at 9 o'clock, that is the schedule done for the public hearing, is that correct?
Not today, public hearing's next time.
Oh, next time? Okay. I just knew that she was on here today, so that'll be next time. Well, if that's the case, I'm gonna go ahead and read this because we have 5 minutes now. I have one comment here from Philip and Bethany Houch. These are people that live in the proposed district regional sewer area. They live on North Portersville Road. They cannot attend the public hearing. Yeah, it is. It's going to be on November 21st. But I did want to express to you our excitement and enthusiasm for the project. This would be fantastic if passed. I hope you will pass our comments along to the Board of Commissioners since we cannot be there in person. Thank you for your consideration. Have a good weekend. So that's one letter of support. The other letter or email, one other one that I received was a question, just what does this mean? What's going on with this? Do I have to sign up? How much is it gonna cost? I sent back a response for that person, so they weren't really pro or against the action. So I just sent them some information. Had another guy call me, again, just wanted information. And the last one that I received last night was a daughter writing for her father saying that dad doesn't want this and he doesn't want Mid-States Corridor and please leave us alone in Hayesville. We're doing fine how we are. I mean, that's the gist of it. I mean, it was written kindly and everything, but that was the gist of it. And I wrote back and tried to, again, give them some information because I think the dad was saying that this would be very expensive. And on one hand, yes, it's very expensive to get it in order, but I would assume if my thinking is correct, that if he's got a functioning, working septic system that's legal and is working fine, there's nothing saying we're gonna force him to tie in. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
So that's kind of what I said. It probably wouldn't cost you anything if you've got, because I can definitely see those people that just paid 10 grand to update their system or $20,000 to make it work. You know, you'd hate to tell them, oh, that's nice that you did that. That would help you for the year, but now you have to sign on. So I just tried to give people some information. But that person was, from what they understood of it, were opposed. They want Hayesville just to be left alone. They like it how it is. So some people want it a lot, some people don't. I guess that's and I think the other thing that they weren't familiar with, and I had to reread the draft or what was that? Feasibility study or whatever you would call that, to remind myself of what the health contaminants were and the study that shows the big red blob of all the E. coli and all the health issues that are going on up there. There's not been a lot of studies, but the one study that there was is that whole watershed is just not as healthy as it should be, mostly because of fecal runoff I don't know if that's the technical term for it, but there's human waste causing environmental issues. And it's getting into the creeks, the waterways, the groundwater, and in the White River. So if something isn't done, we'll just keep contaminating our swimming, fishing, drinking sources. So I think that was enough of an update on that for the moment, unless one of you has something. Commissioner Ramos, anything?
No, I don't.
Hospital? No. Okay, let's move on to the 8:30 agenda item. It says Buffalo Springs National Forest, Adrian Highhouse. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Adrian Highhouse. I'm a resident, not representing a group or anything, just a concerned resident. I don't know if you guys are aware of the Buffalo Springs project, so that's kind of partly why I'm here, just to make sure you guys are aware. It's a big national forest, Hoosier National Forest project. The Orange County commissioners actually wrote some letters of concern and protest to not only the National Forest administrators, but Trey Hollingsworth and Mike Braun and Todd Young. So I brought you guys copies of those letters. Just because I thought, well, if they were concerned, maybe you guys would be concerned. So it's just one copy I can make more if you guys want more, or I can send you an electronic one. I got that from the auditor,
Oh, that's weird.
from the Orange County auditor. Yeah, I just made one copy. I can email you guys.
I think we actually received some of these items earlier in the year.
Okay,
Yeah, so I think we've seen some of this.
okay. And are
And
you,
is it basically that they are supposed to do a study within a certain time period, they didn't do the study, and they're gonna clear cut some things and,
the way I understand it is number one, the vastness of it. So it's 12,000 to 15,000 acres that are set for prescribed burn. And then there's 5,000 acres that's supposed to either be, it's broken up into areas that would be clear cut or thinned. Regardless, it's 20 miles of logging roads that are, going to be built in the national forest. A lot of it is around recreational areas like the Youngs Creek Horse Trail and areas where people really enjoy those areas. All of it is Patoka Lake watershed. So there's almost 800 acres of herbicide treatment that's on Patoka Lake watershed that's supposed to, be treated with chemicals. I'm not a good public speaker, I get nervous.
no, you're doing great.
So I think the vastness was part of the concern. The other concern you'll see in the letter is the Hoosier National Forest kind of up to date on their goals, their overall plan. In the last 20 years, we've learned a lot about the environment and changes, and people's goals are shifting. But the Hoosier National Forest hasn't changed their plan. They're working off a plan from 2006. They haven't adjusted goals for, maybe we don't want to be just, burning as much stuff as we maybe would have 20 years ago, because we see how it's affecting things, or, So I think in the letter, you'll notice that they were asking the Hoosier National Forest to do a new plan before they start this project. And their response has been that they're not interested in doing a new plan. Their plan is good for now. That was in a video that I saw on the USDA website, on the Hoosier National Forest website. And they're very polite about it. And I understand their goals are to keep the forest healthy, and, they have their reasons for doing what they're doing. A lot of it is trying to get rid of the non-native pine trees. I don't quite understand why we have to go in and cut them down. They're dying on their own, of their own admission. The foresters say, well, all these pine trees are dying. Well, then just let them die. Why do we have to, build logging roads and take trucks in and cut them all down? I'm not sure. Just let them die. If they're not native and they're not doing well, why are we, burning fuel and spending money and building roads and the logging roads, for me personally, the logging roads leave huge rocks and things that you don't, you're trying to take kids hiking or you're trying to ride your bicycle and they're these giant, it's giant gravel. It's not what you use in your driveway. You guys are probably familiar, so they leave that. They don't take that out. It doesn't go away. And then it just makes it hard to enjoy that. I'm sure I don't have horses, but I'm sure that would not be enjoyable for riding horses either. And just the water quality, it's all Patoka Lake watershed. You mentioned the E. coli. I know I had found just a whole bunch it was just a list of waterways in Du Bois County that are already considered, I'm trying to remember what the word was, impaired waters. So it was PCBS and fish, biological integrity, E. coli, dissolved oxygen, nutrients. So there were over 100 streams in Du Bois County that are already on that list of impaired waters. And just all that herbicide, is that really what we need? Do we need to look at it again? And I think what usually happens, from what I understand, is that the Hoosier National Forest develops a plan like this. And I'm not sure who has to approve it, but they send a draft for approval. And usually what happens is everybody just okays it and nobody asks them to really, change it in any way. And so there's no checks in that way, if that makes sense. I think they are supposed to do impact studies, but those impact studies aren't something that I've been able to find. Maybe they haven't done them yet. I don't understand that part either. It's really hard to find information, and I'm sure they would tell you differently. and I'm not the most high-tech person, but I mean, when I go online and try to figure out, well, what does this mean? What exactly are they spraying? How are they applying? That you just don't get a whole lot of answers. They don't say, oh, well, it might affect this, or yes, these burns will kill all the animals in the area, or no, they won't, or they don't really give you any information. It doesn't, they don't explain anything or say what the impact is going to be. So it makes it hard, I think, for people to know and understand. Do you guys have any questions for me or interest, or I can get you people who know more than I do to come and present if that would be something that you're interested in hearing more about it, because I'm just a resident. Worked here for 30 years, paid taxes for 30 years. I'm a social worker. I'm never going to be a person who owns land that I can, recreate on my own. I'm always going to be dependent on public land because I'm a person who does a job that's, serves the public. So it's just, I'm never going to be rich or own land like that. So I'm a person who's concerned about people like me who are dependent on public land. I don't get a choice of, oh, well, I'll just go out on my own property and do this or that, and I was raised as a kid camping on public land and hunting on public land. And so I still do those things. And I think kids need to do those things. It's good for their mental health as a social worker. I see that. And I worked in hospice for about 17 years, so saw a lot of cancer. So when I hear about herbicide sprays and things like that, it makes me nervous. And I know they treat our water, I understand that, but every time you put more chemicals into the water, you have to treat it with more chemicals. So you're just adding more chemicals to more chemicals. And we already live in an area with lots of farmer runoff. They spray their fields and that all goes into our water already. So it's not like we live in an area where we don't live in the mountains where no one's doing that and, oh, our water's pretty clean already. It's already being treated and treated and treated. So I'm sorry, I get so nervous.
No, you've really done great. Don't worry about that. And I can say I thank you for coming. I always like when people have something that they want to share. It's one good way of participating. From my memory on this has probably been 8 months ago that we discussed it as a board. The Orange County Commissioners reached out to us, as did other people. And so I think I actually typed something up and brought it into the board saying, hey, I think we should get on board with the commissioners and support what they're doing. And then I believe Commissioner Bramas had had a meeting with the Forest Service, is that correct? And he had heard the other side of the story, so I came in really supporting, getting behind the commissioners, and then from memory, whenever he came in and said, well, here's what's really going on, or here's the other side of the story at least.
Yeah,
It
and it's
sounded
hard, it's
It
hard.
sounded like it made sense, and I think we as a board decided to drop getting involved, I guess.
Yeah, we essentially just decided to not get involved. So not necessarily to endorse the project, but also not to oppose it. So.
Commissioner Browns, what did you, I didn't interrupt you.
No, you're fine.
I was just gonna, because he talked to them, I didn't remember.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Brown was probably a little more up to date on it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was on mute. No, you're correct that that was our decision to not get involved. Allow the Forest Service to manage the forest, according to, their best plans. I heard both sides of the story at Patoka Water. Patoka Water Sewer had a presentation from both sides of the story there, and that's where the U.S. Forest Service forester came in and talked to us, and you know, when you listen to people talk, they all have a story. We all have a story, and it's hard to pin down, you know, exactly where we should be on something like that. So that's why I was of the opinion that we shouldn't be on either side of this, neither promoting or opposing.
And you thought that both sides sounded like they both had reasonable positions, is that fair?
Yes.
And I would just ask, do you get the idea that they are kind of considering, you know, the effects of what we're learning about the environment and how it affects, you know, the population, the land, the air? Do you get the idea that that's at all being considered? You know, it's hard to turn a big ship around, so to speak. You know, when you have a giant agency that's kind of had the same perspective for many, many years, I think it gets hard to shift that perspective, even in the academia. You know, what was your perspective on their goals? Are they current?
Well, I think their goal is to, and you alluded to this a little bit when you talked about the pine growths and so forth, is to repopulate these areas with native species. And yes, there will be some burns. Sometimes one burn is enough to take care of it. Sometimes a couple might be necessary, and then the new growth takes over. The reason for the burns is that many of the non-native or the non-preferred growth do not survive a burn, whereas your oaks and hickories and those types of things do. So that burn knocks everything else down and allows the oaks and hickories and the desired species to populate through. Another area where there seems to be some, I'm going to say some disagreement. You talked about the herbicides that are being used, and I know the other gentleman who talked about it up at Patoka Water seemed to imply that those herbicides were widespread over the area. When the forester came in, he indicated that herbicides are used as a spot treatment on stumps to prevent sprouting on those stumps. So it's just a local spray on a particular stump, many stumps of course, but not a blanket spraying of the area by aircraft or even by motorized vehicles or something like that. So, you know, there are some differences of I guess what I'd say is how serious some of these things are.
Excuse me.
And so do you feel like their goals are you know, are they getting with the times?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Do you feel like they are taking the information that we have today into consideration, or do you feel like their goals are still the goals of 1996?
All I can do is talk about what I was told, and excuse me. And yes, the point was made that just because the plan, the official plan, is 20 years old or 15 years old, whatever it is, that doesn't mean that we're not looking at current information, current practices, and following best practices when we do things.
Yeah, I did. I watched all their videos online, and they had a 2-hour public thing that was recorded also, and I watched that too. I guess my perspective is I just feel like they're still doing things the way that they have done them for years and years, and they're not really taking into account, what we know today that we didn't know 20 years ago or whatever. So that, and that's just my perspective. So I appreciate that you guys have considered all this, and maybe I've, wasted your time today,
Not at all.
but, if there's any more information I can provide, let me know.
It's always good to hear somebody else's perspective on things, and we learn something anytime we discuss it.
Yeah, I would just encourage people to consider that, it is a big ship. It is hard to change perspectives, and that's kind of what I feel all government, you're here to protect us and try to help steer those things. I know it takes a long time, and it can be kind of gradual work, but I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi. Oh, okay, I didn't know if you were.
Are you opening anything or you're just? Oh, okay. I was like, man, they're real excited. Jumping the gun, yeah.
We got that.
I thought you get that back. Clean it up.
It had some typos.
That's just stuff we've been receiving.
So I used that on. He was sort of effective.
That's fine.
And I don't know, the wheels of government, terms of state. I don't know whether they want to spur.
I went into that issue from time to time.
I thought before.
So if
I'm part of that issue.
you actually were part of the issue with it because of the fall break, the government needs shut down in fall break.
The whole thing.
I don't think I'm ever gonna work fall break week again, because every time I tried to join somebody, they were gone. It's true. It's a big vacation, and we just missed like our house, we take a vacation summer, and we go to stuff. We never go to fall break vacation or something. And just by Stuart, we went on a big trip over to one day. I didn't even take a day off work. I left my daughter at home and gave her a chore list. That was my kids through the whole week. We went over, I didn't see my house. Yeah, spent the night, went to the zoo and the aquarium.
Like,
Our kids have never spent the night in Ohio, and they make a lot of Ohio. I don't know why, where it came from, but we're opening my next meeting. We're meeting on it.
Well, you got them early
in
today.
Ohio.
So, okay, we're not doing anything with these bids.
We had kind of like.
I like big meetings. It seemed like every time I was there, I was trying to call somebody over the, I was in the office. Everybody was gone and I started saying, yes, spring break.
I know, because they bring my-
And I'm at work, and, my daughter's at home, and I keep.
People keep bringing them in.
All right, let's get back to order, please. Next up is the assessment use rate here, and talk about the X-Soft conversions. Good morning.
How are you?
Good, thank you. You have one for Elmer?
Huh?
You got one for Elmer?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, just because they will put it on the file.
that's good. Okay, so, I'm back here to kind of give you an update and on where I'm at on, doing my kind of more research on my Excel software conversion. Did get a preliminary contract, prepared and work plan. Had Greg, the county attorney, review that preliminary, and he didn't see a problem, except he wanted one little verbiage added to the work plan, which would get added to the final contract, and I would present that to Greg for him for final approval of that. Did get with Matrix, our IT provider, and to give them a copy of the work plan and for them to look at what the scope of work would involve on their part. And they responded and said they recommended to use the reoccurring engineering hours for their time that they would need to work on this project. So they didn't really anticipate any additional IT expense with doing the conversion. We're tentatively planning to do the conversion in April 23, just because that is it's the best time for us when we're switching from one year to the next to actually do the conversion. After we complete the January 23 assessments and before we start with the 24. So anyhow, that's kind of where I'm at. Another reason I'm here is just to kind of see about, proceeding with a final contract. Because I need to contact our current provider, give them at least 90 days notice, so I would feel more comfortable notifying them here in December, just to make sure we give them that notification. I don't want to incur any additional charges or penalties for not, adhering to notification requirements. So the council has approved, and I did put the support maintenance in 23 budget for the Xsoft annual support fee, and the conversion, licenses, installation, training, that will be $280,300, and they are willing to adopt a 5-year payment plan for that amount, which would equate to $56,060 a year for 5 years. The first year of 23, and then I talked with the council about this, and they appeared to be on board. They said they asked about looking at the reassessment fund. And so Sandy and I looked at the reassessment fund, which is attached. As far as what our balance is there, it's over $1 million. So I feel like there's ample funds there to support the conversion fee, or to support this conversion to the new software.
What's generally spent out of that fund?
What's generally,
Yeah, what goes out of there?
well, it's my reassessment contract, pretty much, and I can't remember all the funds.
So you're talking like the folks that go around and take photographs and
Yeah,
Tyler
yeah.
technology?
right. And then our computer support comes out of there. So in general, I think, if you look at the second page, Sandy, you might help me with this. The estimated current budget for 23 is the 391,400. Is that correct?
Yeah, down on the bottom line 15. That's your next year's budget request.
391,400.
And then if you look at the line 18, that's the amount of money she should have at the end of that year. Look in the first column, don't look in the second column. Second
So
column.
this already considers what gets paid to Tyler?
Yes, it looks at how much money she's gonna take in, how much she's gonna spend out, and what could be remaining balance at the end of the year.
Can the money be used for any other purposes?
Reassessment.
I'm asking questions, I think I know the answers for it, but I'm just
Yeah.
asking.
I mean, that's what this fund is there for.
When I
to-
printed this for you, we didn't have the adopted home filled out yet. That's what I'm doing.
I just wanted to give them, an idea of kind of what we're looking at, and, to show that I feel like there's ample funds to do the conversion, and get our software,
So I'll give you my 2 cents, and then we'll pass it around, and we'll see where we are. So I think when you were here last time, I made the same comment that I would, if I just take this in a vacuum and think that ProVal would probably last another year or another couple of years, my original thought was, well, we can do that because we're paying more than double. By doing this, we're paying more than double for the maintenance fee, and in addition to the $200,000 that they want just for the conversion, licenses and all that.
Mhm.
So part of me's thinking, Xsoft is where we'll end up, but we don't need to rush to get there, was my initial take on it. So I think if we could say 30,000 on support next year, and we could say, not start spending that 200,000 till a year further, financially, it sounded like that would make more sense. The other side of my brain is saying, you run your office, you know what's best for your office, and you have the appropriate amount of money to, you know better how to be an assessor than I know how to be an assessor, so the other part of me says, well, maybe we should just take your advice and move forward with it. So I'm kind of on both sides of the fence with that. When I just look at the money, I think ProVal's not gonna fold up and be bankrupt this year, and I think you've said that it does work. It's just not going to be around forever, you think.
Well, it works. There are some issues I've had in the past, and had to deal with, and, the sport's not there, I don't feel like their concentration is Indiana anymore. We've had issues with, just things being in our software that don't apply to Indiana, because it applies to another state. So my confidence
Excuse me.
is weighing on my final product. So that's another issue.
You say it's waning, like you're having less confidence in it? Okay.
Yes, and I just feel like I don't want to be put under a gun, at the time when, if they ever stop supporting it, once more customers move away from them, which there's more moving away from them. So I just don't want to be put in that position that, they're going to be gone next year, hurry up, I got to get this converted. And I got to move to another software, which I feel is better. I feel it's going to serve the county better. I feel it's going to help my office run more efficiently, because I didn't get to the last line that some other softwares that we use to assess other properties, real property, oil and gas, sales disclosures, all that, their products or their software that
that produce that work is included in this contract. So I can convert everything over to this one company, have all my softwares, all my things that I use to run the office with one company. They will interact more efficiently, and I just feel like will help my office run smoother.
Commissioner Hostetler?
Yeah, I think she stated a good case. Definitely knows more about being assessor than I do.
I mean, it's not always all
And your
just about
keyword
saving
were
money.
The
Because-
efficiencies of your office. I mean, I can really support that. I understand that when you do this, those kind of things are very important. And you want to be able to run your business efficiently and know that you're confident in your data and your support, so.
And I wouldn't come and ask for a conversion if I didn't feel like it was in the county's best interest. I mean, we've been on this software since 1998. I mean, do I want to go through a conversion? No. I mean, it's not the most fun thing to do. If I didn't feel like it was necessary, I wouldn't be here asking to make this move. Because it's going to be a lot of work, and it's not going to be the easiest thing. So I put a lot of thought and effort into this decision, and I feel it's the best decision for the county and for my office, and just to make sure that we have the equipment, the system going forward that we need.
Commissioner Brown, any comments?
Well, first of all, I apologize. I'm a little bit of a disadvantage here. I wasn't able to hear everything Angie was saying, but based on the presentation, was that a year ago? already?
No, it was earlier this year. It was earlier this year.
And I tend to agree, Chad, with the other side of your brain. That she is the expert here, and I think we've asked the questions that we need to ask, and if she is recommending that we move forward with this, because eventually we will, and efficiency is going to be better, then I'm ready to move forward.
Thank you. So the next step, we're waiting for, I believe, just to get this.
Well, I guess I'm here just to kind of get your preliminary, okay, and say yes.
Preliminary okay, and then Mr. Schneider and you will continue to work on the contract so we
Get
get
the final contract so that I can come back and present and get the final contract to you guys to sign off on.
Let's do this one at a time. Do we feel like we have consensus to move forward? Mr. Bromas?
Yes.
Mr. Hofstadter?
Yes.
For myself, yes as well. So
We'll proceed then.
they'll proceed. Thanks for helping talk through it with us.
Sure, no problem. Probably anticipate, depending on how quickly we can work through the final contract and get that to Greg for his final approval. I would probably at the latest, probably early December, I'll hopefully bring it back for signatures. And
I believe that will work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Have a
thanks.
good day.
Uh-huh.
9 o'clock. Mary Austin, clerk needs to talk about regional sewer district and have some contract discussions.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Morning, how are you guys doing?
Okay.
Before we get to the contract, just to give you an update, we did meet with Jasper, on Monday, last Tuesday, and kicked off the, infrastructure side of this with them, as far as the fact that their project, as far as actual construction infrastructure, as we discussed, will be a completely separate contract, separate project. They will have their own agreement or legal documents with SRF. You all will have yours. None of that will be commingled, but we do need to work concurrently and, work regularly together. So they are, they have not decided exactly which engineering firm they're gonna use for their infrastructure. We originally thought that decision had been made, but it hasn't. So we have set our next meeting for November 28th at 1:00. It'll be in the conference room downstairs. Brent, did you? Yes, conference room downstairs. So everybody's welcome to join if y'all want to be there. And at that meeting, they are planning on having selected their engineer and have their contract signed for at least the preliminary engineering report portion. That will finalize what they are going to do on the north end of town. We've talked about the fact that our recommendation was a sixplex. Then right before we submitted the SRF application, they had said they thought they wanted to do a package plant. At our meeting Tuesday, they brought up that they may want to do a full-size plant. So they're still trying to figure out exactly what they want to do. But the preliminary engineering report process will, the nature of that process is you have to choose 3 different alternatives and evaluate them and then select the best one. So that process will get us to the result we need, which is exactly what are we connecting to and where are we connecting it. And we discussed the timeline of that report needing to be done by mid-March, which is the same time we plan on having ours finished. So I don't expect any major hiccups there. Like I said, we are meeting again on November 28th and discuss the fact that from this point moving forward, because the 2 construction projects do have a lot of interaction with them, we will be having regular meetings with them as well. Most likely on a monthly basis. We'll just maybe more frequently than that, but at least on a monthly basis. Also, as I talked about last time I was here, throughout this process, we have regularly been in contact with Region 15 and IFA and all the different USDA, all the different groups that could possibly offer funding. Initially, USDA had said that they didn't think they had any programs that we fit. With their new director, they're being a lot more aggressive about funding. And Craig, last time we met him, which was 3 months ago, maybe, he was very energetic about finding a package that would work. And it took a little while to get the meeting set up, but USDA and Craig with USDA, Neil with IFA for the SRF program, finally met last week to look at all the different packages. And there's several different options where they can work together. So there will definitely be a USDA infusion in this as well. We haven't figured out exactly the best breakdown, whether they'll share it or Hayesville has a lower MHI than Portersville does. So in USDA's money is so dependent on MHI that they may want us to break those into 2 separate packages, which isn't a big deal. We kind of assume that we may end up with more than 1 bid package anyway. And if we separate those in 2 separate packages, we would be able to get, at this point they're thinking, we'd be able to get a lot more money from USDA and grant because USDA could tag on to the Hayesville project and Portersville MHI would not come into consideration of it. So looking through all that, in that process, there are several requirements that SRF requires, like a PER preliminary engineer report that's specific to this project as opposed to the whole county. They also require a asset management plan. Of course, you don't have any assets yet. So the asset management plan is not very expensive or big deal to do. Basically, in a true asset management plan, you are taking inventory and tracking the condition of all of your existing assets is the main purpose of it, and looking at like what depreciation fund you have to have, those types of things. With this one, we will only be doing the second part of that, which is the smallest portion, and that is like forecasting. So we will be looking at analyzing what assets we think the county will have over a 20-year period. So that's not a big deal. It's built into this contract. There's also an environmental portion to the preliminary engineering report that SRF requires. USDA requires an environmental assessment phase 1. So that's built in here. So we'll make sure that that's done too. So y'all will be all ready to go as far as meeting all the requirements for money. As far as potential funds coming from USDA, they don't get anywhere near, they only have like 8 million that they get for the entire state for the entire year. So not looking at nearly as much from them as we will hopefully get from SRF. But talking to Craig, you all would be considered number 1 on USDA's list. So we have a potential to meet their max per project is a $2 million max. And so there's a good chance that we would be able to get that max, which is quite a bit. And that would, USDA would look at that as part of your match for them. So that helps bring down your match amount. Any questions on that stuff?
I've got 2.
Yes.
Do we need to start with the survey for MHI to find out? Because right now we're just guessing and assuming, and you actually have to do a survey, right, to actually find that out for sure?
So that's what I asked Craig on Friday, because I've always been under the impression, and I know I've done it several times in Kentucky, you can use the MHI for the whatever the legal government area is, city, town. In this case, they have to use the township because Hayesville is not incorporated nor is Portersville. So they use the townships is where they pull it from. So in my past experience, yes, that's exactly what we've done when we're looking at a project like this that is very narrow in scope compared to the area of the published MHI, is done a specific survey of the MHI of just the properties that are affected by it. So I asked Craig about that. He said that Indiana very rarely does that. And there's his concern, they will approve to do it. It's very rarely done. And one of the reasons it's very rarely done is because you don't know what you're getting. And if the number comes out worse than what you had, you're stuck with using whatever your survey says. So that's his concern. He did mention that if we chose to do it ourselves, and informally, to make sure that it helps us instead of hurts us, that we can do that. But it's not required and apparently isn't done very often. So that's gonna be up to the county.
Are we talking Boone Township? Are we talking Boone and Harbison? What are we talking? So Boone would be left to the
Boone would
west,
be Portersville,
would be the west of
That's it.
231 area.
Harbison would be Hayesville.
Which one did you choose?
Harbison has Hayesville in it. Portersville's in Boone.
Okay,
Two
honestly,
townships.
I don't remember, to be honest with you. Boone sounded right, for Portersville, and I don't remember, he told me both of them, but I didn't write them down. I'd have to look it up, but
I guess my understanding was that the numbers weren't where they need to be with the census data or something. I don't know. I don't know for sure.
so Hayesville, whatever town, Harbison's Township, for Hayesville falls $340 and some change under what is required. So we just barely make it under meeting that with Hayesville. So there wouldn't be any reason we'd want to do one in Hayesville. It's just whether we think that the area that we'd be supplying sewers to in Portersville, because Portersville, Boone Township does not meet it. So it's whether we think that area would actually be lower than the township as a whole. Craig has a lot more knowledge behind property values and income levels and stuff in this area than I do. And his feeling was that that area has a lot of like heritage farms and stuff like that, and that's what shoots that MHI up. So he discouraged against it being worth the effort. But again, like I said, if it's something that we want to do and find out without officially requesting to use it, we absolutely can do that.
It's on your radar and it looks like you're looking at it. So I guess that's the main thing, but so I just heard that, if you have a few wealthy individuals and a few wealthy landowners, that can really shoot up your averages. Especially in an area a rural area with not a lot of people in it. 300 people in an area and one guy's very rich, that messes that everybody's household income goes up then. So,
And the number of connections, and again, we'll have a much better number when we do the PR, but right now, what we have, assumption, the number of connections in Portersville is only like 60. So, yeah, when you have that few, you have one wealthy individual, and it's gonna significantly skew your average, so, but
so
yeah.
60 connections is what you're estimating in Portersville, you said?
That was what we pulled out of the study.
Yeah.
I think when we get to the PER, it's probably gonna go down a little bit, but we will have a hard number of users when we get through the PER, which will be here in the next couple months.
Okay, and then, so I haven't been intimately involved in this, so some of these questions, I just don't know. I feel like I don't have a good idea where we are. I've got my reading to do, but I still want to make sure that I'm as current as can be. And so with this meeting last week with Jasper, I wasn't in attendance, so I'm not sure what their feelings are, what they're thinking. But what if they come back on November 28th and say, you know what, this is just a little too fast for us, we're not prepared for this, and we're not ready or willing to move forward just yet. I mean, that kind of stops everything, wouldn't it? Because can't happen without B.
Correct, yeah,
I have nothing to tell me that that's what's going to happen, I'm just trying to think of a worst case scenario.
and it would definitely put a huge damper in us moving forward. I mean, we'd have to completely regroup on another option, and I don't know that there's another option, so it would. I think anything's possible, but the facts of the situation are that Jasper's north side of their system is under capacity now. So it has been for a while. So even if the county wasn't ever going to do anything, Jasper needs to do something for their current flows on that end of town without us, much less the growth that they're experiencing and that they want to continue to experience. So I guess my thought is, because they independently need this project to happen, They need some type of infrastructure upgrade on the north end of the town independently of this. With the fact that if they do it now, the county, they get to take advantage of the fact that the county is responsible for a portion of that infrastructure cost. And my understanding is they also plan to use our ARP funds. And if we don't move now, we run out of ARP funds. You miss that deadline of where you can use them. So right now, we've got, if we follow the schedule that I pointed out in the last couple of memos that I've sent out, we would be able to use all the ARP funds. If we have to push because of permitting or because of Jasper or whatever, if we have to push that bid opening date, because as it is, we are functioning on a compressed schedule. If we had to push that bid opening date back to SRS third quarter instead of their second quarter, which gives us about 2.5 more months, we would still be able to use ARP funds, but you're getting really close to the deadline of when those have to be spent. If we miss that, the ARP funds can't be used for this project at all. So I think when you take those things in consideration, I think it's highly unlikely, but it's absolutely possible.
What did the study say about the number of connections in Hayesville? Do you remember?
I want to say it was like 170, 180, but you have to understand too, we weren't just counting the very center of Hayesville.
Right.
We were going out a little bit and also trying to connect some of the properties between Hayesville and Jasper. With that being mainly force main, depending on, there's a lot of different factors, we won't necessarily be able to connect every property, but we counted that we would be able to pick up at least a few. So again, that number will alter in the preliminary engineering report, but
This will be my last question. So if, I guess in my mind, it's Hayesville's one to get it, Porterville, those are not much of a concentration of population, but that is a concentration of population, both of theirs. So the line that moves from there down to Jasper, does anybody that's along that line, that amount of space that they could come on to if they choose? Or is that not how that works? I don't know how this works.
so, as I say, our intent is to try to make it available to as many people as possible. When you're dealing, but that will be force main, so it's pressurized. When you're dealing with hooking into a pressurized line, the hydraulics can get tricky. Sometimes, depending on how much flow is coming out of the house, it may or may not even be possible. Even when it is possible, whenever you put like a individual home grinder station, a small pump station is what they have to have because they're going into a pressurized line. The back pressures on that and the way they fluctuate wears on those motors, and the average home connection, if you're going into a pressurized line, is somewhere between 3,000 and 6,000 for the actual pump that you need, the equipment. And depending on how much pressure we have in that line would depend on how much wear and tear happens on that pump. And so we look at it and we have enough pressure where you're starting to lose 30% of the life cycle of the pump because of how often it's cycling and the pressure it's having your body does, then we generally recommend not putting them in because it becomes too high of a continual cost for the pump owner.
So a number of people that got a letter from us, maybe even the majority of them won't be eligible for sewer service.
I wouldn't say the majority of them, but yes, there will be a large percentage of them that will not have the option right now. But like I said, we're gonna look at that too, because if we can, depending on the survey, the topo, we'll take the gravity line as far down, was that 132? 231? Yeah, 231 all the right numbers in my order. We'll take gravity as far down there as we can, as long as we have people that want to hook on. To give them that option to hook on. And like I said, even when we do have to switch to force main, it's not a guarantee that they can't, it's just more difficult to hook them on. Ooh, as many people who are interested, believe me, our goal is to make sure if you're interested, you get sewer.
Commissioner Oster, do you have a question? Commissioner Bromwich?
There we go. Okay, nothing really. I mean, I appreciate the presentation. And, like you said, Chad, I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed at the last meeting, that, I was, not sure that I understood everything more with that. I had some lengthy conversations with Mr. Kleesner, with Mr. Winholt and others, and feel better about it now. It sounds like there's still some questions that need to be answered, namely from the city of Jasper, before we can really move forward. And I did receive this professional service agreement last night in an email. When are we hoping to approve that?
So in order for us to stay on the schedule to meet that second quarter deadline, we need to start work within the next 2 to 3 weeks. So, I was assuming it would get voted on at the next meeting.
Okay,
And one of our goals was to, when we realized we were needing to split it up into 2 separate phases, we kind of intentionally split the services to make sure that that this group of services were under what's already appropriated. With that being said, obviously, if something crazy were to happen and Jasper were to say, nope, we're not, we can't do this right now, we would stop work immediately and regroup. We'd come back and figure out what that plan is or what their timeline is. We wouldn't keep continuing on with this full contract if the project as a whole were to be put on hold because of Jasper. But the intent is, at least the way they left it, was they were planning to have had their engineer selected and under contract to get started when we met on the 28th. So as of our last meeting with them, they're kind of functioning on the same timeline that we are. As far as, I guess, like I said, I know the last meeting was a whole lot of information at once. Have the memos that I've been sending out after each meeting, is that helping some? Did you all see the memo I sent out after the meeting with Jasper as well?
yes. Yes, that was helpful. So anyway, with this professional service agreement, I haven't had a chance to look through it. It was 12 pages long or something like that. I would ask Brent if he has had a chance to look through it, but if we're not voting on it until next week, if we can hold it off until next week, our next meeting, that'll give us a chance to do that. I've looked at the schedule, I've looked at the compensation numbers, but beyond that, I haven't looked at much yet.
Yeah, and that was my intent. I would never want you all to vote on a contract, much less a contract this large, minutes after, I sent the draft last night, but really minutes after I presented it to you. My intent was to present it to you all today. If you had a chance to look at it last night, answer any questions, but then give, the next 2 weeks for you to contact me, email, phone call, text message, whatever is your preferred method of communication, with any questions or anything you have. But absolutely would expect that you need a couple weeks to review it and feel comfortable with what's in it.
Okay, thank you.
At the end of the project, and say everything just goes as well, how, I guess I still am not understanding exactly how it gets paid. What, I guess I don't know exactly what the amount of money that will be left over to be owed is and how we pay that. Because with 250 or so or more or less users at $50 a month, again, I'm making approximations, that's hard to pay much back. So can you maybe clarify any of that?
Sure, so one of the reasons why we haven't actually done a true PER just for the project, we did the countywide one, is our goal was to, a preliminary engineering report.
Okay,
Basically, we did the study and SRF allowed us to use that just to get ranked. But before we close the loan, they still require a true preliminary engineering report. But our goal, Clark Deep's goal, was to spend as little dollars as possible in non-tangible and studies and paper that gets put on a shelf as possible until we knew that you would be able to get at least enough financing to make the job feasible. So that's how we've been working with SRF for so long, even before you all got ranked and stayed in contact with them. SRF will not tell you, Indiana, Kentucky does, Ohio does, it just depends on the state, but Indiana will not give any promises or indication as to how much of your total construction cost will be granted or forgivable principal or negative interest. They do several different ways to do it. But they won't do that until after you have started the actual loan paperwork and closing process. By that time, you have to have advertised, and you have to have designed, advertised, and open the construction bids on the project. So that's what's a little frustrating. We have been very clear with them throughout the whole process that if the county does not get a minimum 50% and grant of some sort, that it is not feasible. In other words, you do not have enough users to pay your debt service and to maintain your system. That's kind of what the study was, to go through that process to see what that line was. Again, while SRF won't guarantee us a certain percentage right now, they, knowing where we are and what makes it feasible or not feasible, and that the county does not want to move forward if they can't actually build it and fund it. They have encouraged us to move forward. So that's as good as we're going to get from SRF to say that it should be economical. But as far as getting into, so that's as much information as we're going to get before we have to bid it out. Before you actually start building it and actually going into the physical construction, you will know exactly what that is. And SRF won't go through that process. That's where Baker and Tilly come in, SRF comes in, and the finances are all done. SRF will not close your loan and will not go through the process with you unless they know that your revenues will be enough to cover your debt service, plus your operation and maintenance costs and all of that. Does that?
that answers my question, but it still makes me nervous.
Yes.
In that we could be $2 million of, the county could get $1 million to get to the point to find out that we can't afford it.
Yes. I mean, that the reality is there is nothing we can do to not have that be the situation. That is a possibility. What I can say is we have spent the last 2 years taking very strategic, calculated steps to guarantee that the chances of that happening are slim to none. Can't say they're none, but they're as small as we're going to get. And so, yeah, I mean, it's nerve-wracking, but unfortunately, that's how every SRF project is. You know, and there's a lot of other funds that are that way too, that you just don't know There's no way for you to know 100% until you have put quite a bit of skin in the game.
I don't think I have anything else.
I would love to be able to
I
take that
like black and
away.
white things.
Yeah, me too. And that's what I said, like Kentucky, when they got their infusion, when KIA, which is the Kentucky Finance Authority, same thing as IFA, when they got their infusion from the infrastructure bill, which is where this money's coming from, they sat down and looked at the rankings and said, all projects ranked 5 or higher throughout the entire state that are related to any type of contamination issue, meaning you're upgrading your sewer plant or you're putting in infrastructure to get rid of septic system, anything like that, is guaranteed 100% forgiveness. And all other like water projects that are lead replacement pipes, any wastewater projects that are reducing the amount of overflows, they automatically are guaranteed 49%. And then once you get to the process of getting to the loan closing, they'll consider more than that, but you're guaranteed a minimum. Indiana will not guarantee a minimum. It's just the way they chose to set up the program.
So our next meeting will be on the 21st. So at that time, we can consider the contract. Then a week from there, we would meet with the city of Jasper. Those are the next two actions.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and then on the 21st, we will also be doing the resolution for the I&M permit. And that will get filed as soon as we have the documents back from the resolution. That'll get filed with IDEM, and then it takes somewhere between 30 to 60 days for them to say you're a legal entity.
And then public comments at that time.
That's what that is, yeah, that's what that time period is.
Okay. Saying anything to me? Mr. Schneider, anything to you?
No.
Okay.
If Dick said it,
Chad, I have one question. Like, where are we at on the ordinance and bylaws? I did receive that finally, but I don't know if we have to prove that.
no, that has not been brought to y'all for final approval. I got some comments from Greg that I need
Correct
to,
on the bylaws, and then I've made it that far in the ordinance so far.
I got some comments from Greg that I have skimmed, but I haven't addressed because I was working on trying to get this out for you all. But so, and then he, like I said, he's still working on the ordinances. If you all don't have it, if y'all look at it and don't have any other comments, then as soon as I get Gray's comments, I'll get those updated into the documents and then they'll be ready for approval. You do not have to have those approved when we submit to IDEM. I have to send a draft with the submittal, and you have to approve them by the time IDEM makes you a legal entity. But we have that 30 or 60 days time frame where IDEM is going through the public comment process to finalize those. Do you have any questions on them or anything?
No, thank you, no.
All right, well,
Okay, well, thank you.
thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Wilson, furniture RFP.
I think all of you should have received an email with the document that we're discussing here. Greg did approve made some corrections, found some mistakes that were made in the original. It was just changing the dates. We did end up having to push back the time frame. So all of the meeting dates have changed from the original document. I would really note that more for Sandy's purposes and future meeting agendas. I would gladly field any questions if you have specific questions about the proposal and what we are talking about. My assistant director, Kim Snyder, and I have toured 2 other 911 centers that are new build-outs of likely bidders for this project, and we've been continuing to educate ourselves to make the best decision that we can possibly make. We have laid eyes on 4 different vendors at this point, and I would expect that 3 or maybe all 4 that we looked at would be bidders, just in preparation for this to not delay. We have there's a lot of moving parts to our move, and this is probably the longest lead time. And that's why we're here talking about stuff that we're not even gonna be ordering until spring. But the furniture and our radio equipment and our 911 equipment are extremely long lead times. And if we want to move into a center before probably January of 2024, then we need to be doing this now.
The only questions I had were the virtual attendance at the pre-proposal meeting is required. I would assume that Ritter Services has done things like this before.
Yes.
I mean, is everything in here, is this common? It just seems like it's a lot of effort for somebody to bid our project.
I believe that this proposal probably mirrors a lot of centers' proposals. I had the same question, knowing that our county maybe is not as big as other centers. However, when we toured Wayne County, we looked at a 6-position center, which is exactly what we're looking at here. When we looked at Delaware County, they were I think a 9-position center. I don't think it's out of the realm of the way that we should be operating here. It is an extremely large purchase. It is likely to be the 2nd largest item of the groups of items that we need to purchase to upfit the new center. The radio console and the radio, everything communications-wise, two-way communications-wise will be the most expensive portion of that upfitting, but the furniture for the positions and the workstations will be the 2nd most expensive.
You're satisfied with the specs as they're written?
Yeah.
Again, I'm not a person who looks at these very often.
It's
so I don't-
complex furniture for an ultra-specific 24/7 use. It is going to be extremely expensive. I looked back at what we spent in 2002 when we upfitted our current workspace, and it's going to be a lot more, but we also spent a lot. If you think about $2002, we spent a lot then to do it right, and we're working on furniture that we bought 20 years ago. So I feel really strongly we need to do the right thing here. We need to be as diligent as we can, and to make the right purchase, to make a durable purchase for a heavy use 24/7 operation. It's not going to come cheap. And I think a little diligence here is going to be money well spent. Just taking the time. And we have talked to multiple 911 directors across the state and in other places. And it's an unusual purchase. There is nothing like it in the county. I've never seen anything like it in my life. This workstation furniture it's a creature like no other. Dispatch centers are the only places. Air traffic control centers, things like that. It's the only places you see this type of product. And I think we just need to be very diligent to make sure we make the right purchase. Otherwise, we can throw a bunch of money at it and probably end up with the right thing, but boy, what if we don't? That would be very foolish.
I'm fine with how it's written up. The only other thing, Mr. Schneider, this is a minor thing, but point or subcategory, or I don't know what it is, 5C, that says they have to give us an electronic PDF copy. That'd be fine if we had it over by email. I know we've taken bids before, and getting it by email is probably actually more handy than getting a flash drive. So if we want to put it more by email, that might save them the hassle of creating a flash drive and sending it to us, and it's more convenient for us to use it in that electronic fashion. Otherwise, I'm fine with this. So are you just seeking our consent to move forward with this RFP as it's presented here?
Correct.
Mr. Brahmas, any thoughts on this?
No, I don't. I don't have any questions. I appreciate your work on it, Stuart. And trust that it's all in order.
Mr. Oster?
I don't have anything to add.
So possibly with that one little change, or we can ignore it. It's not a huge.
You can add it, you can be an and or, either way, it's fine.
So I'll move that we approve the RFP specifications for the PSAP workstation furniture.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Sandy, do you need anything else from me other than what's?
You don't need me to do anything, do you?
Just put me on the agendas on the appropriate, that match the timeline, but they're pretty far away.
I've got open bids in January and
Yep.
an award in February.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Stuart. Mr. Madden, community corrections update? Maybe we can deal with the vehicles first and then get into the other parts. Does that work for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
So I think I don't know if I think I mentioned it to the board earlier that we have a van and we have a Dodge Journey. I also talked to the county attorney about it briefly. The DuBois County Community Corrections Advisory Board suggested that we take the van to public bid. That's one of the ways that we can proceed with disposal of the vehicle. We do have an offer on the Journey of an amount higher than the minimum. So the law basically says you can sell something for $1,000 or less without having to take public bids. Because our offer is greater than that, I think our options would be we can accept $1,000 for the vehicle and be done with it, or we can add it to the public bid process along with the van. By putting it together with the van, we save the,
There shouldn't be additional costs associated with it, you're doing one advertisement.
other than you're gonna have a few more lines of print to pay for an ad, so it's gonna be a minor change. My suggestion probably would be to just public bid both of them and see where it comes. What do you think of that?
No, I'm fine with that.
Commissioner Hostetler?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Commissioner Brahmas?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, so Mr. Madden, I talked to the highway folks, Mr. Berg and Wenholt, and they've done this recently where they've sold a piece of county equipment, so they understand how that process works. They've agreed to help make that happen.
Okay.
So we'll go that route. And I guess just, I know you want them off your lot. We want them gone too, so I guess just as soon as that process can take. I would assume probably with advertising, we'd probably have to be able to sell them and get rid of them in December. Does that sound about right?
I would think, with knowing Steve, gonna roll hunting, I would think December is fine.
Okay. So a little slower than I like, but that's how government works.
Right.
So you good with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So, I guess just to get it in the minutes, I'll move that we sell the van and the Journey by public bid.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, the next item that I believe we're here to talk about today would be some staffing issues for the officers in community corrections. To remind everybody where we are, at a previous meeting, we've created a single additional position for an additional officer for community corrections. Our suggestion was that was paid for out of out of some money that they're holding in CD at this time. Since that time, I've talked with the supervisor, the officer supervisor out there, and Mr. Madden, the director, multiple times. I've gone over the schedule, gone over their needs, and I guess I'll let you just kind of start from there if you'd like.
Yeah, we had a board meeting, last Tuesday, I believe, on the 1st. It was. And, our board voted, to approve 4 positions, and we would have a portion of our funding that we'd be willing to pay for those 4 positions. Pretty much asking the commissioners to approve 4 positions because it's an immediate need for the community corrections.
To paraphrase the motion that was made by one of the members, it was, tell the commissioners, we need 4 positions, and we will use $100,000 of our money, and the county should pick up the rest of it. Is that a short version of what the motion was? And I believe that passed 94 of the board voted in favor of that. Yeah, so I wrote down, use $100,000 of the CD to hire 4 officers. The county will pick up the difference. 94 voted in favor of that. And then just going forward, the note that I kept from my discussion with Mr. Madden was that ideally, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think his opinion is if the county would pick up the insurance and FICA for the facility and all the employees that are up there, that the community corrections would fund all of the salaries.
Correct.
And that, another side note, and this number isn't exact, but with insurance and all in, the cost per officer is in the amount of $68,000 to $71,000 when you count FICA, holiday, the wage, pay time, all that, whatever, everything that it takes to have an employee. So just a little bit of background information for everyone. So any initial thoughts on that, Commissioner Hofstadter or Commissioner Bromas?
So the employee costs 68 to 71,000. The community correction has $100,000 fund that they're going to use. Is that for 1 year?
Right, that's a one-time spend.
Okay, so after that, the county would pick up all 4 of them?
Ideally, yes.
Okay, just asking here.
I'll go ahead and give you my 2 cents worth.
If the county picked up FICA and the benefits, and community corrections would fund the salary, would that be ongoing? Would that be continuous?
Yes. I think whatever we talked about, I think what we talked about was it would be, it's about $300,000 a year, ongoing expense for Du Bois County to pay for those benefits. So what that does, it's no different than us just making a yearly contribution to the running of the facility. If we pay the insurance, then that opens up money for them to pay for something else. Or if we pay for employees, then that opens that money up to pay for insurance. It's kind of just a way to infuse more funds into the community corrections.
Okay.
I'll give you my rundown and then you can tell me what you think, I guess. So at the last meeting, I thought that it was in the best interest of the county to approve the single officer, to let community corrections pay for said officer for the next year or year and a half until the corrections rehabilitation money is available to pick up the expense for that going forward. Since that time, like I mentioned, the advisory board, the majority of the advisory board advises that they think we need more people than that. And they're suggesting 4, which is the director's recommendation. After sitting and talking with them for several hours the other day and reviewing it myself, I think I've had a change of heart in a limited way, that I thought that the one person could get us a Band-Aid, would help us with our PTO time, and it would do some of those things and take a little bit of the heat off of what the people are doing. Since that time, though, after reviewing the schedule, I think I've become supportive of an additional position on top of that. So instead of just the one, we would have an additional person. So I guess today what I would like to see happen is that we would support 2 total new hires, one that we approved previously and 1 new one that I would suggest that we do today. And the reason I go with that is that I think it's always important that we do things incrementally to make sure, one, we have to make sure we have a safe, secure facility and that we have the appropriate staff for the job that we're doing. But second to that, we don't want to spend more than we have to. We want to have appropriate staffing, not overstaffing. So whenever I went through the officer list with the folks and looked at, once we get back up to full staff, I think having the 2 additional staff members would help them with their shifts to have the appropriate level of staffing. We can get into more details than that if necessary, but it would allow there to be 3 officers on duty at the highest, at the highest times of the day, every shift. The times that it wouldn't, if there were multiple people that had time off, then we would still have to be moving people around a little bit, like the supervisor or field officers possibly, but that would, by putting on 2 additional officers, that would limit that considerably from what we're doing now. So I think that's where I've come. So I can leave that back to you or to the other commissioners.
Last time you came, I was prepared to go ahead and do 2 additional, so I don't have really a problem getting behind that. But I guess I'm just a little uncomfortable that last time we voted to approve 1, and now 1 meeting later, we're doing this again. And I wonder if we approve 2 today, if we're gonna have somebody come back at our next meeting saying, no, we really, really need 4. And I don't wanna keep rehashing it. So, like I said, I was okay with 2 last time, so I could be okay with 2 again this time. I don't mind adding 1 more, but I guess.
I can tell you that in the future, there's gonna be a need for more officers. 2 puts a Band-Aid on it still. 4, possibly 3 will get us 3 officers per shift where the facility really needs to be, as far as safety and security and staffing it appropriately 24 hours a day. 3 officers per shift is ideal, and 3 officers would get us there on 3 per shift and allow our supervisor to really focus on his supervisory role other than filling in for officers. But 4 officers would ensure that each shift had 3 officers. The supervisor would be able to focus on his supervisory role, and then the extra position would be able to focus on field office and custody as that position is intended. Right now, he's solely focused on custody because we're shorthanded.
Commissioner Brown, any comments?
Well, I would echo some of the things that Nick said there about being hesitant to go 2 today and come back next week for the 3rd one or the 4th one. I talked to Mr. Madden, I've talked to some of the others, and I think there's a need. We've got to have a safe, secure facility there. We've got to have the manpower to do it. If that means we have to find the money to do that, so be it. Now, that's not our decision. That's a council decision. So I was ready to get behind 2 the last time. I'm almost, if I heard Mr. Madden correctly, he could almost get behind 3 instead of 4. But whatever the needs are, that's where I would come down on and say, then the council has to decide whether or not, or what they can afford. And if they come back and say, we can only afford 2, then I'd be okay with that.
Another suggestion Mr. Madden had that hadn't been done before, but he had suggested to me that why don't you create all 4 positions and we'll fill them as we can when the funding becomes available.
Create the positions, and then we'll work with whoever we need to work with to get it funded. Because it is a need.
I didn't feel comfortable with that, but I just want to bring that up because that was a suggestion and it's something we can work on. And I'll tell you, last time, 2 weeks ago, I was supporting doing the single person, and I think that the staff at Community Corrections was saying, well, it's better than nothing, right? It's a step. And I apologize for fighting for something last week that I'm changing this week, but when I get new information, I change my mind. And so I think that I've gotten different information, and I've I've thought about it over the last 6 or 7 days, and I just feel that this is where I'm at now. So yes, I apologize for the change, but I feel like I have a better understanding of what they do and what's needed. So that's where I'm at. So at this point, we would have 2 people on every shift, regular, and then we would have 3 people that could work mid shifts if we approve 2 people. That's if they had. Right now, they're short a person or 2, but when they were fully staffed, we have the approved staff for 3 mid shift people. So. The reason, and I told these guys, when I first became a commissioner, I wanted to be on the boards that are things that were really important to me. I mean, a lot of things are important, but the ones I thought were important were DuBois County Community Corrections and 911. Those were 2 of them, and I want them to be, I gotta quit being so tight with everything, and I want to support people appropriately. And I do feel that the 2 people at this time is what I'm comfortable with doing, that I want to support these people. I mean, people are putting their hearts and soul into it, and I think this is the right path. If somebody else says we need 4 or 10 or whatever it is, I'm not gonna cry about it. I'm just trying to do my best for both the county and the facility. So I'm happy to make a motion that we approve another position if we want to go that route, or if somebody else has another consideration, I'm happy to do that.
Well, I think I would be, this morning after listening to the presentation, would be in favor of 3. But unfortunately, I'm not able to vote there this morning, so whatever you and Nick decide to go with.
I'm comfortable with a total of 2. If you guys want to do 3 and you want to kick the can down the road 2 more weeks to do 3, I'm not gonna say I wouldn't change my mind in that time if there's more information available, but right now I'm only comfortable with that on 1 addition.
Another thing that I mentioned to these guys, and this may not be the best way of running things, but I like doing things incrementally. If we bring in 2 people and it seems to work great. Now we put ourselves in a position that's working. If they come back in 4 months and say, it's still not working, here's why, then I wouldn't mind revisiting it then. But to throw, the other thing that I've brought up to them was several years ago, we were doing the same work without even having the mid-shift person. And the argument would be, well, we were even less safe and even less secure. We were doing things even worse then. But the facility was being maintained with 1 less staff member then. That person's on, and there's still a need. We're adding 2 more now, so we're incrementally getting to a place where hopefully it'll be where it needs to be. If we need to revisit it, we can. That's what it'd be. So I'll move that we approve 1 new shift officer position with the, I guess we would have to say, pending county council approval of a funding mechanism. So this would be 1 additional officer in addition to the 1 that we approved previously. That's what.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a first and second. We haven't taken any official action. I'm willing to, or I guess I'll give a little more time if you guys have anything else you'd like to comment before we take a vote.
Yeah, going back to working with less officers, I think I stated before that I don't think this place has ever been properly staffed as far as safety and security is concerned. Even if we do get these 2 officers, it puts a Band-Aid on the issue, and the issue is safety and security. Even with our staff numbers right now, we're getting the job done. It's just not safe. And you've been in there and you've seen how busy it is. And I've extended an invite to all the commissioners and councilmen, and most of them have taken me up on that offer and came to the facility and talked with me. But 4 officers or 3 officers would really kind of guarantee that, I don't want to say guarantee, but would really ensure that safety and security is kind of top priority in the facility. Just as far as responding to situations in the facility, if there's only one person to respond and the one person is in the control room, there's nobody left on the facility floor to, to keep control, or, if dispatch had to call in EMT or law enforcement, there'd be nobody there to escort them on the floor because there'd be one officer, kind of at the incident. So the 3 officers per shift, and that's kind of ideal, and that's kind of what we'll continue to fight for, is 3 officers per shift.
Now, this puts me in a bind. County council doesn't meet again until the 21st, which is too late for me to advertise for. I had to have it last week. So I can't advertise, the next meeting that the council's gonna have is the 12th unless they decide to have another special meeting.
I think we understand that there's gonna be timeline issues. We'll do it as fast as we can. It's like selling vehicles or anything else.
And this will be used with project income. Will they cash the CD or is it, they'll have to? From what I understand, the advisory council can advise, they can't tell the council that they can cash or not cash a CD.
Yes, my thing is they should spend their money to fund their facility, and then when that money is out, then we'll fund it somewhere else, but, it'll be looking up to the council, I guess, where the money comes from, so I don't know that that's something that we would decide here today. So 2 weeks ago, that was my position, again, I was trying to advise the council what I thought was best, and that would be to use that CD. If the council says it's fine for the community corrections to keep that CD for some reason, then
They'll have to discuss it this evening because I'll have to know where to advertise it for.
that works for me.
Can I ask
Do we have bids to open it as?
No.
Okay, I didn't know what those were.
There was,
They're bids.
I just had a question. What would be the quickest way they could, this could be done? It's almost like the end of December, right? Before they could hire someone. The way
And then we gotta do the process again in January, like I talked about earlier.
the timing of it, that's why.
If they're using their own money, they can get somebody in, the one person in
I
sooner,
still
right?
have to do an additional in 2023, so it'll be the same process that we spoke about earlier.
But we
Because it wasn't put in the budget for 2023.
The council's got a special meeting tonight to approve this one officer,
Right.
so,
For the rest of this calendar year.
right. So, it's still, this is not gonna happen.
And then in January, we're gonna have to use part-time money for this position until we can appropriate.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for 2 people, first and a second. Is there anything you'd like to add, Mr. Clark?
I stand behind my director, for the safety of our building and my officers. I appreciate the second officer being approved, but we still need one more officer per shift. So we can work on that later on down the road. But, we need this done as soon as possible, Sandy. I know you say that it's at the very end of the schedule. It's not helping me now.
I understand that.
Chad, you've seen what I'm going through in the month of November. Just had another officer, he's got medical issues, he'll be off today and tomorrow. Night shift officer, that's why I was shaking my head when I looked at my phone. I just got a text from a doctor, so I have to I don't have anybody to replace it for tonight.
I'm gonna go back to, why didn't we set up a contingency or do something in our budget? We didn't. And that had nothing to do with me, so.
Right, and that was what, when Megan was here.
Yes.
You can't frown upon us not knowing all this. We see it now, we should have been prepared, but I kind of stayed out of the back of the admin stuff, which I'm gonna get more involved with now, because conditions like this, I have this man's back, I approve what he's saying, but I also understand what you guys are saying too. But we didn't know what we were gonna walk into in this new building either. I mean, the conditions of the new building compared to the other one, you have one level in the old one, you got a double, where my officers can't be coming out of the control room or even stepping in the hallway next to the control room of our old building to help the other officer out with the drug screens. Just like Jake and I worked this past weekend, I got an anonymous phone call, one of our home detention people was drunk. My officer, good night, was in the control room working Saturday and Sunday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because of short staff. He couldn't do his job. So they know when these people aren't going out. I called him in to get a breathalyzer, and he's going to get revoked off the program today. His wife drove him in. But it's just situations like that that we walk into. These people call. If they know we're short staffed, this guy ain't coming out. You're free to do whatever you want on the weekend. So it's just like the safety of our people inside the building and then being not staffed to do our job outside the building too. There's a lot to do with it. But it's just like you said, where's the money going to come from? And just, it's not his fault that he walked into this.
I agree with that. But
But,
it's
I
not
mean-
my fault either that the rules are in place. I
I
mean,
know.
I understand.
All we're gonna do is we're gonna get it done as fast as we can get it done.
And I appreciate that because I'm turning gray right there.
Mr. Schneider, did you have something you wanted to add?
Only to clarify, you had said something about two, but your motion was for one.
Right,
One
we approved
additional.
one 2 weeks ago, 2
I
total.
just want to make sure
Yes,
that
sir.
we're clear.
Okay, so
So we're getting one now, correct?
you'll get one as fast as they approve it, and I don't know how that process.
If they approve tonight, if the council approves the one tonight, you can hire it tomorrow.
Okay, the second one will probably be.
The
after
second
first
one, I can't do, the best I can do is, unless they're gonna meet earlier, December 12th is the next meeting I can advertise for. Because we had to have the press last Thursday for the meeting on November 21st.
Okay,
So again, it's only, if we have a special meeting the first of
Exactly.
December, it's gonna maybe increase that time a week if she could get it advertised, so.
can we get that special meeting approved?
That's
here?
up to them, not up to me.
Okay, that's what you'll do tonight, you'll ask them what they wanna do.
I'm still new to this, that's why I asked questions.
It's up to them.
All right, we need to keep moving on this issue, so we have a first and a second. All in favor of the motion to approve create one additional officer position for community corrections, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion
And
carries.
that's the sequel, same as the last.
Same as the last one, yeah. Are there any other community corrections issues you'd like to discuss again, sir?
No.
Thank you again for your effort, both of you. I know it's a challenging time out there.
Thanks.
Thank you. You guys fine to proceed? Keep going? All right. So next up is, we need to do the community correction. I guess the rest of it is miscellaneous items. So we can start going through those. Number one, community corrections board appointment for Melissa Niehaus. She's the new juvenile probation officer. By nature of her office, she is on the board, but I think we still have to go through the appointment. Her position will expire at the end of this year, so we'll be reappointing her again next month. But I'll move that we approve appointing Melissa Niehaus to the DuBois County Community Corrections Advisory Board.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. You'll sign that, please. Commissioner Brahms, I didn't think you'd have any opposition, but if I'm moving too fast, please just interrupt.
No, you're good.
Next, I wanted to make a comment that the land that we approved moving forward with at the last meeting that is adjacent to the Justice Campus has been pulled from the sale according to the sheriff, so that will no longer be moving forward to the best of my knowledge. It may, what I've noticed with some of these sheriff sales is that they get pulled 1 month just to be back on 2 months later, so we'll keep an eye on that. Surplus items, I've got third floor copier. What we got going with third floor?
There's a copier in the third floor that I don't know a whole lot about, but it's old and it doesn't work, and I guess they need to get it.
Who was it, prosecutor or?
I think it originally was the clerk's office and moved upstairs so they could use it up there, but
It's
when
in
they moved
Court office. Is that what it's at?
out in the court office where we have
Next to
three
Judge
trial people
Whitehead.
now, and Scott tells me it needs to be.
Okay. Anybody have any problem with eliminating that copier. I'll move that we declare the copier surplus to be disposed of.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. We have a historical cabinet we were gonna talk about today. It sits in front of the auditor and treasurer's office. Do you have any updates on that? Do you know anything, Sandy?
All the contents have been moved to the other cabinet, the original historical cabinet. I think it's, they're being, they're emptying the shelves and all that. They're gonna have the highway come help. The museum's gonna take it on the 14th.
Yeah, they're taking the glass doors. The highway guys are gonna take the glass doors off. So, sorry, Steve, I didn't tell you about
So it's
that.
gonna
He
be-
called me the other day. It's the bridge crew, so.
But Myers is coming to help to disassemble it. They're gonna help the museum.
It's just a big piece of glass.
They need help with that.
Yeah, so we're gonna bring our 4 bridge crew guys up and help them move that glass.
So this is all good news, so I think we need to declare that that's surplus so that it can be done.
Right.
So I'll move that we approve declaring the historical cabinet on the north side of the first floor of the courthouse as a surplus item to be donated to the Du Bois County Museum.
I'll second.
Commissioner Brahms, do you have any comments?
No, I'm good with that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
I will comment on, since all of the items from that cabinet were moved to the other cabinet, just quickly looking at it the other day, I looked at that clutter, so I was wondering whether we're still looking at, do we need all of those things? Do we want all of those things in that cabinet? Or are there some things that either could go to the museum or somewhere? So it wouldn't be so cluttered, so full.
Now, there were 2 items were not put in that case. Mr. Sweeney, the bust, I think it was taken down to the library, and there's a bell. I don't know where this got took back.
Okay.
So to your point, yes, we need to revisit what we're gonna do with those. I don't know if, what did we ask? We asked somebody to look into that last night.
Scott, you asked Scott to either pack them up or look at it, and then he just moved everything over to try to get the cabinet empty.
Again, I still would be in favor of finding if there's original owners that have it, we can give them back some of those items, and if they don't, we could ask for, find a way to accept those as our property so that we can choose what to do with them. So yeah, we will have to revisit that. Do you have a suggestion?
I don't, no, I don't.
Okay. The next thing we can do here is the courthouse use agreement for Otanabon Days. Do we have a piece of paperwork for that, I believe? Thank you. So the Greater Downtown Jasper Business Association would like us to keep the restrooms open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturdays. That would be the 12th, 19th, 26th of November, 3rd, 10th, and 17th of December. Then Fridays, I think a little bit later on the 25th and December 2nd. In addition, on December 4th, on a Sunday from noon until 3 o'clock. That was requested from Nancy Eckerly, who's a member. And Mr. Hof has kindly agreed to help with that, help facilitate that. Anybody on the board here have an issue with that or a comment? Hearing none, I'll move that we approve, allowing that to happen.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. I guess we'll just give minutes that we approve that. Next up, Veteran Services Mailbox. So I'll give a brief history of this. The treasurer's office has a night deposit box. People can pay their property taxes and drop mail in there. The receptacle is located, where the county would receive the mail is inside of the current Veteran Service Office. And so they have to go in there periodically to clean that out, to get the mail for people that are paying their taxes in that fashion. There was discussion between the Veteran Service Office and the Treasurer's Office if they could share that. That was determined that that's probably not a good idea because of people's finances and working tax money in with somebody's veteran service application for something. And so that was thought of not as a useful or the best idea. The next idea was to have a second drop box of some sort for use of the Veteran Service Office, because sometimes they have items that they need to provide to Veteran Service Officer after hours or when they're busy. So the idea was maybe we could put a mailbox, a locked mailbox of some sort so people could drop those items off. Our Veteran Service Officer made multiple suggestions of ones that work. I sent the commissioners a photo of the one that I thought would work the best, and I think Scott said that he can help put that up if that's the route we decided to go. Since that time, I think we've had another option that may have surfaced, that option being that we convert the existing Dropbox to Veteran Service Office Dropbox, and that the Treasurer's Office have a additional or a new Dropbox placed maybe on courthouse property of some place. Those are the ones that if you drive through the city of Jasper drive-through where it's a standalone, it's on a pole, a steel pole, and it's secure. People drop their payments in there after hours, I guess. Is that correct? Do you have anything you'd like to add? The treasurer's here.
I do. I would like to add. So I have money in my budget that I could order the mailbox, and the treasurer's office would pay for it. Now that there's a handicap ramp that will be accessible, we could put that mailbox on, like, up by the courthouse entrance. And then it would eliminate a lot of confusion for people because they never can find this Dropbox anyway, the existing one. If it was up on the courthouse steps, we could just say, it's at the entrance to the courthouse. So people would be easily able to find it. And like I said, my office would be willing to pay for the cost of it. And then we would, just convert the one that there is, like let the Veterans Office, have that one. And
Do you have a photo or something of what you're suggesting?
well, there's some options. I mean, there's just different options and
That's ugly.
okay.
That probably won't work. I was thinking something like that. That would be my first thought.
Totally. I'll take
Sorry, Commissioner Brown, so you can't see the pictures.
Just trust us, they're ugly.
I promise you.
So these would be under a canopy. Go ahead, sir.
I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, it's kind of fuzzy, I can't see them very well.
It would be on, like right as you walk into the courthouse.
In front of one of the clerk's windows, but.
Either the clerks or the reporters, either one. I mean, wouldn't matter.
I think that makes perfect sense. I know it's confusing to find this other
Oh my
one.
gosh, so confusing.
If you're not in the know, you don't know where it is.
My problem with it is, there's still a lot of people that find it, they stuff them in there. I mean,
This one would take a manila envelope.
yeah, so I guess the only problem I see with this whole thing, I think it's a great idea, and I appreciate you stepping up with that idea, is that for the next 12 years, people are still gonna be stuffing tax payments in there. So we're still gonna have to probably work with, because once things are a certain way, people will still continue probably to use the old way, so we'll have to work.
Or the first or second
I
tax
think you have to
period,
change
you'll
the
just have to
signage.
put a little sign there that says,
Yeah, the signage.
do
I think-
not place your tax payments here, they go to the courthouse.
Yeah, we'll take the signage that we have on,
Right.
have it removed, and, we can put a little note up there, don't put your tax there. They still put child support payments in there too, so.
Right, that's what I know that they put things, hey, this is for the clerk, this is for the
Right.
whoever. So I think that this is a fine idea. Do they sell these like at Huffman Office where you can see what it looks like actually, or is this something you have to order online?
Well, and also the utility office has one,
Yeah.
they have one, so,
Which I
I
never
can go
understood
speak
why
to
they
them.
have a box and the window.
It's for bigger items,
Is it? Okay.
don't fit in that little slot.
So I can go ask them, you know, where they got theirs and,
How about this, I can go preliminarily approving this. I think this will work, I think it'll work for the service office. If you'll share this with Mr. Hove, because he may say, you can't put it there because of whatever, and talk to Brent to make sure that wherever we do place it, it doesn't get in the way of any accessibility issues. So I would say that where I stand is that I'm preliminarily approving it, but just maybe run it through those two guys and do a little more if you don't mind.
I have spoken to Mr. Hove at length, and he is, he's in agreement with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So I'll work
and you
with-
have and maybe just give me an idea of where the footprint would be.
Okay. Right in the middle of the door. I was trying to,
I have a question.
yes, sir?
Is this a box that would be attached to the outside of the wall, a lock box attached to the outside of the wall? Would it pass through the wall, through the window?
No, this is a freestanding pedestal.
Okay.
It'd be drilled into the concrete.
Empty. I'm sorry.
So I was just gonna say the base would be drilled into the concrete. And the treasurer's office would have to go out and empty it.
Okay.
Would you think that this is a fine idea or not such a fine idea? Ms. Brown?
If it's secure, if we feel like it's secure, I think it's a fine idea.
I think the nice thing about it is we could probably make have a camera that'll be on it, because there's already a camera on the porch. I think for security wise, that the city's been using it for a long time for their payments, and I think we'd be okay.
Okay.
All right, so maybe would you mind putting it on the agenda for 5 minutes next time? And then we'll just make a final determination.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. Yeah, better go.
Well, no, I think I'll be done in like 2 minutes.
Park your own after that, right? I didn't know how long you take. I underestimated the last one, so I was like, I'm just gonna take care of this.
I'm hoping not to you all.
On the, money. You said that the funds for the Purdue extension.
Oh, they were backwards.
Okay, so
So, yeah,
So we didn't make a mistake.
correct. So she's going to have to change it and circulate a new one that they assigned. That's it, that we can try to approve.
Bruce Baker, sign it later. We'll do that one first, so that I don't.
You threw me off with the last name.
We try to be professional.
You were, yes.
Yep, I got it on here.
Who does it?
But I'll sign it. Like who?
So I had to because I needed junket here.
Yeah.
We're giving a receipt that has to match as an internal from the board.
Right. That's how I even fall so much. What did they do? No, we're just gonna do it this way. No, you can't just do it this way. Okay, let's get back to business here. Next up is we have a memorandum of understanding with the Purdue Extension. And we pay them yearly for contractual services, for things that they do in DuBois County. They have presented to us an agreement, and it has an amount on it that is incorrect. They are updating the annual amount for our services and for their services. We are going to get a new contract soon. The amount to be paid for the contractual services will be $132,840 for 2023. We don't have the final contract. The contract itself is all in order other than the numbers. They put a 2 where a 3 should be, so the numbers were wrong. Once we receive a current document, I would approve that we sign it.
So can we go ahead and pass it and then sign it when it comes in?
Yes. Once we get a corrected document, we can sign that.
Correct.
So I'll move that we approve signing this document in the amount of $132,840 when it becomes available.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion, Mr. Bromas?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next up, the DuBois County Community Corrections has, just as an update, there's something called COSAP. It's a treatment pod that will be taking place in the community corrections. So these people will have an isolated section just for their recovery, and it's just something new that we're doing up there to help people that have substance use disorder. And one of the things that has been proposed to us from Allison, who is going to be running that program, was a suggestion to have an Amazon gift list. And what that sounds like to me is a bridal registry or what they call marriage registry. I don't know what they call it. Anyway, it was something where people can go onto Amazon. Gift registry is where I guess you can go onto a different website and they'll say, we need notebooks for our participants. Would you like to donate these? Is that your understanding? We need whatever it is that they need and to put that out there. We've never done something like that where we ask for things, but we've never done anything like this before. So they've asked if we could give approval to allow them to do that. So that I'm just opening that for discussion. Initial thoughts, Mr. Hofstadter?
Let's see what would hurt.
The only thing I'm wondering about is how do we're getting things of value, so we have to somehow put them on the books. How do we do that? For example, if somebody came in here and said, hey, I really like the park, and I want to give you $100 towards the park, the auditor's office has to account for that money, put it into the right fund, then it has to be appropriated, it has to go through some channels.
Right, and how would this work?
And how would this work?
From what I understood, they want like notebooks or things like that.
But if somebody,
But she talked about having a list on Amazon and then people could go buy those items and it would go to their program.
it makes sense, but if there's something that's purchased that would be considered something that should be on her.
Right, now we
Something
cannot,
over $500,
we
an asset.
cannot give people a tax exempt form saying you donated, we can't do that.
Right.
we've asked that question before. Everybody remembers.
Greg, you have any thoughts on this as a action?
So ultimately, they would end up being, we'd be the owners of it.
Right.
Of whatever those items are donated.
They're consumable too, so it's gonna be, a notebook, they use it, it's gone. It's not gonna be a long-term asset.
I don't see an issue with it. No, I mean, we've received donations for the things in the past, but as Sandy pointed out, there's sort of a thank you to the extent of what the county would be providing.
And further, will she have to create a new fund to track that Susan Smith donated 10 notebooks and Billy Joe Smith gave a box of pencils?
I don't know.
They would probably need to keep some kind of if they get 100 books in, they need probably an inventory of some sort, so they don't just walk off.
Is there anything, de minimis amount that we can take so much money and we can take so much asset and not have to worry about it, or you probably, I know you wouldn't know that off the top of your head, but
The money, I think, is more difficult than just getting in-kind donations, I would think, because that's gotta get deposited somewhere. And then we were going to account for it that way, versus receiving a box of pencils or notebooks, things of that nature. I don't know, short of them having an inventory that says, here's what we've got, to know what we need more, we need to generate another wish list.
I guess where I get concerned is if somebody says, hey, we need a television, or we need a bookcase, and these things are $1,100.
I don't think that's what they're talking about.
Or we could approve it and say it would be
Set an amount that any item that they're requesting is less than X.
less than $500 in value from any one donor.
Correct.
I mean, is this something where you can email board of accounts and say, here's what they want to do, is this,
I can do that.
I mean, I guess I would.
My questions once a week.
I would say that we approve the use of the Amazon gift list for DuBois County Community Corrections pending the okay or consent of State Board of Accounts that there's a manageable process. I think that's about as best we can do today.
Yeah.
So I don't want to approve it, and then it's a big mess. And Commissioner Brahma's thoughts?
No, I really don't. It sounds like a simple idea and make it complicated, but, no, I think, I would be in favor of the concept, yes.
Okay, so I'll move that we approve the Amazon gift list pending approval from the State Board of Accounts, that it's a manageable process. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So I guess that's kind of a halfway approval, I guess. We'll see how things turn out. Child support office, that's just another,
Mr. Rhodes is on the agenda.
you are for what time?
You didn't look at your revised agenda, did you?
No, I've got him on here, but I've got all my miscellaneous stuff in front of you.
Just in case YouTubers want to hop off because they want to hear Mr. Rhodes speak, just let everybody know.
They're sitting there waiting anxiously for Mark.
I'm going through the rest of my darn thing. It's gonna take about one more minute. I apologize. That way we're good. I got them over with. The child support office is something I've been working on, where I've been working with, members of the prosecutor's office because the child support people are underneath them. That's something that we're gonna have to check. I've talked to them, that's something we're gonna have to make a move on here in the next month or so. With Mr. Schoenfeld retiring from the position, and we're just gonna have to work on finding a suitable location for the office. We won't be left out on the street. He'll let us rent month to month until we find something appropriate, or if we decide to further negotiate with him to purchase the home
So you
potentially.
did make the comment that he can sell it to you if you're interested.
He and I had the conversation though, that if we get 2 appraisals on it, those appraisals may come back and we say, are you nuts? That it's worth that much, or it may come back and he says, are you nuts? It's worth that little. So just, we may be out a couple appraisals, but that's something we're gonna look for. I think he's being a good partner, and we'll work through it. Next, I did forward each of you a school board nominee, somebody that wants to be considered. I think that gets us up to 5 different people that are interested. So my suggestion for our board would be to use the time between now and our first meeting in December to talk to these folks, interview them, talk to the superintendent, whatever you feel is in what it takes for you to feel comfortable with who you suggest to be the next Northeast DuBois School Board member. So my plan is to call each of them and at a minimum give them a little bit of an interview to see what their values are and see if it matches with what I think is best for Northeast DuBois. We'll probably do the same for both of you. Does that sound reasonable, Mr. Promise?
Yeah, yes, it does. We might consider our selection process for that Jones. I mean, we may be, if there's 3 of us, we may have 3 different suggestions. So how do we resolve that? So it's just a thought.
Yeah, I guess we could do a rank choice if nothing else. But yeah, you're right. It could.
So that's what that would be my suggestion, right? Choice voting.
How about this? We'll come in next time with our top 3. Each of us come, or not next time. First meeting in December, we'll come in with our top 3, and we can submit them to the other members of the board. And yeah, we'll go from there. And now the moment we've all been waiting for, we have a wellness update from Mr. Rhodes.
While you're talking about appointments, you guys all got the list, so you can start. Are you gonna want to be doing that in December, or are you gonna want to do this in January following?
Let's see how things go and we'll.
Okay. You guys all have the list.
Yes.
You know, it's gonna be. What did you say in our office the other day? Let's get beat, man. Get voted, sorry.
Hey, Mr. Rhodes, good morning.
Hey, good morning. So, the wellness update is Lindsay, our wellness coordinator for Memorial. She got in contact with me, and I guess there is a select few employees that reached out to her that has missed some, usually probably one of the quarterly wellness bill checks, either first, second, or third quarter. And the employee was wondering if they can go to 2 of them in the 4th quarter to compensate for that quarter loss. So I did reach out to the wellness committee just to get some feedback on their thoughts about it. And we pretty well split 50-50 on support versus non-support of allowing the exemption. So I figured it out. It comes to 5% of the workforce is in jeopardy of going from wellness to non-wellness next year if we do not allow it. I'm not talking that many people, about 10 people, which accounts about 5% of our population. So,
Do you have a list of who those people are?
I do not know who they are.
Like she went through and said, hey, this person didn't come, so.
She just gave me numbers because obviously that's kind of, you know.
I guess the reason I'm asking, do the 10 people know who they are?
Yes. Yeah, I've actually had one reach out to me, and then she's had the others reach out to her when she's on site doing the 4th quarter as well.
What they need to do is go in Q1, Q2, and Q4, and then go to the blood draw and the regular day.
Yeah.
Those would be their 4.
Yep, and then the 1st quarter, 2nd quarter, 3rd quarter, 4th quarter wellness skill check. And then go to the June health screen.
Oh, so you do have to go to 1 each quarter
Yes.
and the screen.
Yep, and the screen, then the results session.
Because heck, I don't even know if I would qualify then. I was thinking that I'm June, I thought when you came in here, yeah, so in that case, I'm in favor. Helping these idiots out. No, I honestly, I thought that that's how it worked. I thought we had to go to the first, I mean, I usually go to more often than that, or historically have. Okay. So you're coming in to ask what we want to do.
If we would want to allow the exemption and allow these employees, if they are minus a quarter, basically Lindsay will be able to get a hold of them and they can do 2 4th quarter wellness skill check sessions to qualify.
Does this do anything to our insurance plan that you're making an exception? Because you are making an
No,
exception
that's
to
fine.
the
I mean, the 6 months takes effect like right after I think.
Because I don't know if that changes anything with stop loss.
I don't think so.
I wouldn't think so.
No.
Just
Okay,
ask,
yeah,
because
no
I know in
worries.
the past, when we made exceptions, we always had to watch.
Yeah.
I'm not the wellness person on here, so I'll hear what the other two have to say.
I'm in favor of being as, what's the word? Trying to make it as easy as possible for people to be on wellness. I don't look at it as being a punishment for not doing something as much as if you participate, the goal is that we help you become better health, better, physically and mentally fit. So I would be in favor of going ahead and letting them do it and doing their makeup and,
So really, I'm gonna play devil's advocate for the people who did do what they were supposed to do. Are we just gonna take away the requirement and say just make,
No, because they're not out anything. I mean, it's not like the people who did it are out something, and, oh, look at these, that they got special treatment now. They still have to go to court.
I think what you may be saying is that I could go January through April and be done for the year, and that's not the point of it.
right?
Right.
I think we call it a one-time exception.
I was gonna say, regardless of what the decision is, I would like to say, because it's the same requirement in 23. So next year, there's no.
And this was the first year for that requirement, right?
Yes, it is first year for it, but I say in 23, definitely no exceptions, because it's been communicated multiple times in multiple different avenues that what the requirement is. It's very, it's not exactly a hard requirement to meet, so.
I feel like it's a lot easier, and for Chad here, it's a lot easier for the people that work here, and she goes around to the different locations to where it shouldn't be that hard to take 5 minutes and go see her. But somebody that works at the bank, for example, and has to drive down here and make a special visit, it's a little bit harder.
Yeah. Throw him under the bus.
Oh, you went down. Commissioner Brown?
The only question I would add is that, I know Marky's aware, are any of these 10 people, like myself, retiring at the end of the year, and the point is really moot, because we will not be on the payroll next year?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
So it's 10, you think it's 10
She
people?
showed me it was 10 people, yeah. And I know one of the 10 because they talked to me, but other than that, they called me on the phone and we had a conversation about it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I threw that 10 number out there based on the 5%, but, I don't know what the number is.
So you in favor of allowing the people to have a little break on this deal?
Yeah, I think so.
You want to make a motion?
I mean, I get the point that everybody who did it the right way, and now we're changing something here, but I think this one time deal, I'd be okay with it.
Okay.
I will make a motion that we make a one-time exception to the quarterly fitness goal checks to allow people to do a makeup goal check by the end of the year.
I'll second. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Anything else, sir?
That's all I've got.
All right. I tried to make you wait a half hour next time. All right. The, I just wanted to share this with you it's just kind of interesting. Doesn't really have to do anything to do with what we're doing today. Any public comment? Seeing any? Another miscellaneous item. A couple months ago, Ryland and I had looked into comprehensive planning for the county. At that time, we were hoping we could maybe piggyback it with the health program that we're doing. And it doesn't seem like that would really work. And also, we were hoping that there would be a method where the state Okra would pay for us having a comprehensive plan. And if our county was more poor, they would pay for it, but they won't pay for ours. And we met with 2 different firms that provide that service. And one of them had reached out to me again recently. And I don't know where we are with that. Is this something that is a priority to you, Mr. Brown, you, Mr. Ostetter, about proceeding, or should we wait? What are your thoughts on comprehensive plan? And again, it would be $80,000 to $120,000 to get a comprehensive 5-year plan put together, and a process we would go through to do that.
I like the idea of having one, all of it. That said, I think we've had several done in the past, and I don't know that we've ever really used it as our roadmap. You know, that's essentially what it should be, as our roadmap for how we're gonna approach future things. And Chris, paying $80,000 or $100,000 for it to catch dust on a shelf, I don't think it's worth it. So we'd have to have some commitment to follow what our findings are.
Commissioner Ramos?
Yes, I think it's important, to move forward with it. I don't know just how quickly we need to move forward with it, but we need to move forward with it. As I'm coming to the end of my term here, I'm been thinking about if I were to continue on for indefinitely, what types of things would I like to see happen here in the county? And there's several, and but that's as much of a plan as we've got. So yeah, I think some thought needs to be put into it, a plan made, and then as Mick said, we need to then figure out how we stay with that, or how we approach the plan and move forward with it.
Something I always think about, and what I've learned over the time I've been a commissioner, is that if you want to get a project done and you want it successful, you need to have a cheerleader for it. You need to have somebody that's behind it and paying attention for it to be successful. We're going to have someone to replace you, and the candidates, as far as I am aware, are both talented, and maybe this is something that one of them is passionate about, or maybe it isn't. Maybe we do it as a board, all 3 members. But I think possibly waiting until we have the new board in place is something we need to consider.
I think that's a valid point.
I think, I'll tell you with myself, I've got so many things that I love and would like to do for the county, but I've found out that I've only got so much time and space to do things. So right now, those are the health program and this jail project. When I take on anything above that, it just needs to be, it's a very significant commitment. So I guess that's where I was bringing up, if the new commissioner will have ideas of their own, and maybe this is one of them, maybe it isn't, but we can find out then. That's unfair?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, thank you for your feedback on that. I'll bring up that there's a multi-county cybersecurity conversation on Tuesday, November 15th, between 10 and noon at the Du Bois Library. Is anyone planning to attend that? We have 1 yes from the auditor.
Tammy and I are both going, and I think Stuart's going as well.
Okay, so we've got at least 3 people representing us there. I thought about going. I'll just see how the calendar comes out. I'm not sure I don't know if we need a room full of county people there, but maybe we do.
What is the date on that, Jen?
The 15th,
November 15th, 10 a.m. to noon.
I got a notice on it, but I didn't know if I put it on my calendar. I do not have it on my calendar now.
at the Du Bois Library.
Okay, the next thing, I don't know that I brought this up last time, but it's on my list here, so I don't think that I did. Security system cameras that are now excess material or excess property that the county owns from the community corrections. Within the bid of what we're having, we're getting a new system, so the old one is not of use to us. I guess what I'd like to do, and they would like to receive it, would be to donate the security system cameras to SWICAC. They've expressed an interest in that, so I would like to give permission to Mr. Madden to make that happen if the board is in favor of that. And I'd like to hear your thoughts.
I don't have any issues with it. I think it's a great idea.
Mr. Promise?
I don't have a problem with donating them. That's as good a recipient as any. I'd be good with it.
Okay, and on a secondary note on the same kind of topic, the Dove House also has an interest in it. So I think that if SWICAC ends up being able to use some of it or none of it or whatever, they may transfer it to Dove House. But either way, I think they're both organizations that we as a board would probably be in favor of helping out in this way.
Absolutely. In fact, when you said it, Dove House came to mind. I didn't know that being new, whether they had that already in place or where they were at on it. So yes, either one of those is good.
If SWICAC doesn't end up needing it or it doesn't work for them, then it would roll down to them possibly. So I will move that we call the security system as surplus and ask Community Corrections to donate that to SWICAC. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. I'll let them know. One hour later, I'm finally finished. Anything from the auditor's office? Anything from legal?
No, sir.
Anything from Mr. Promise?
I don't, no.
Mr. Hostetter?
No, I don't have any.
Anything from the public? All right, we'll close the meeting. Thank you.
Good luck, dear.